Security cameras at Caesar's Palace captured everything at exactly 11:47 p.m. on December 12, 1986. What was John Gotti doing backstage at Frank Sinatra's sold-out concert? Why did the Teflon Don risk everything to confront Old Blue Eyes in his own territory? How did a simple misunderstanding turn into the most dangerous night in Las Vegas entertainment history? This is the story of two legends, one city, and a moment that changed the mob forever. It started at 9:30 p.m. when John Gotti sat in his black Cadillac outside Caesar's Palace, watching limousines drop off Hollywood's elite. At 46, the Gambino family boss was at the height of his power, untouchable by law enforcement, feared by enemies. But tonight, something burned in his chest that had nothing to do with business. Earlier that week, word had reached him through the grapevine that Frank Sinatra had been telling people the Gambino family was finished after recent FBI raids. Coming from anyone else, Gotti would have laughed. But this was Frank Sinatra, the man who built Las Vegas, who could make or break careers with a phone call. "Boss, you sure about this?" asked Sammy Gravano from the passenger seat. Sinatra's got friends everywhere. This could get messy. Gotti straightened his $3,000 suit and checked his diamond-studded Rolex. Nobody calls the Gottis finished, especially not some singer who thinks he's untouchable. Inside Caesar's Palace, the showroom was packed wall-to-wall with 1,200 guests. Politicians, movie stars, casino owners, and wise guys from every family on the East Coast filled tables around the stage. Frank Sinatra, at 71, still commanded the room like a king holding court. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my house," Sinatra crooned into the microphone, his voice as smooth as aged whiskey. The crowd erupted as he launched into My Way, the song that had become his signature anthem of independence. Backstage, Gotti moved through the maze of corridors with the confidence of a man who owned whatever room he entered. Casino security recognized him immediately but stepped aside. Nobody wanted trouble with the Teflon Don, especially on Sinatra's night. "Mr. Gotti," a nervous stage manager approached. "I'm sorry, but Mr. Sinatra is performing. He can't be disturbed." Gotti smiled, but his eyes remained cold. "Kid, I ain't here to disturb nobody. I'm here to have a conversation. And trust me, Frank wants to hear what I got to say." On stage, Sinatra finished My Way to thunderous applause. As he moved into New York, his eyes caught movement in the wings. A tall figure in an expensive suit stood watching him, arms crossed, completely still. Even in the stage lights, Frank recognized the face he'd seen on every newspaper in America. John Gotti was in his building. Sinatra never missed a beat, but those who knew him noticed the slight tightening around his eyes. He'd spent decades navigating the dangerous waters between entertainment and organized crime, but he'd never had the head of New York's most powerful family show up uninvited. The song ended, and Sinatra set down his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a short intermission. Don't go anywhere, the best is yet to come." As the curtain fell, and the audience settled into cocktails and conversation, Sinatra walked directly toward the wings where Gotti waited. "Mr. Gotti," Sinatra's voice carried no trace of fear, only the weariness of a man who'd seen everything. "This is unexpected." "Mr. Sinatra," Gotti nodded respectfully. "Beautiful show, you still got it after all these years." They stood 3 feet apart, two legends from different worlds but similar backgrounds. Both Italian-Americans who'd clawed their way to the top, both men who commanded respect through force of personality, both products of a time when a man's word meant everything. "I hear you've been talking about me," Gotti said quietly. telling people the Gambino family is finished. Sinatra's blue eyes never flinched. I don't recall saying anything about you specifically, John, but if I did, it was probably because I care about what happens to our people. Our people? Yeah, our people. The ones who get hurt when this life spills over into the real world. For a moment, tension crackled between them like electricity. Gotti was used to people cowering in his presence, but Sinatra stood his ground with the calm confidence of a man who'd faced down everyone from studio heads to presidents. You know what your problem is, Frank? Gotti stepped closer. You forgot where you came from. You forgot that guys like me are the reason guys like you can build places like this. Sinatra laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is that what you think? That I owe my success to the mob? I think you owe your safety to showing proper respect. The words hung in the air like smoke. Backstage crew members had quietly disappeared, sensing the danger. Even Sammy Gravano, who'd followed his boss inside, stood ready for whatever came next. But instead of escalating, Sinatra did something unexpected. He smiled. You want to know what I think, John? I think you're scared. Gotti's face darkened. Nobody calls me scared. Not scared of bullets or badges or anything like that. Sinatra continued calmly. Scared that guys like you are dinosaurs. Scared that the world's changing and there ain't gonna be room for the old ways much longer. The old ways built this country. Maybe, but they're also gonna tear it down if smart guys don't start making smarter choices. For 30 seconds, they stared at each other. Two titans from different worlds, each trying to measure the other. Finally Gotti spoke. You got brass, I'll give you that. Most people would be sweating bullets right now. I learned a long time ago that respect goes both ways, John. You can demand it, but that don't make it real. Something shifted in Gotti's expression. Perhaps it was recognition of a kindred spirit, or perhaps it was simple respect for a man who refused to be intimidated. Whatever it was, the tension began to ease. Tell you what, Gotti said. You finish your show, I'll listen from back here. And afterward, we'll have a real conversation. Man to man. Sinatra nodded slowly. I'd like that. The second half of the concert was electric. Sinatra performed with renewed energy, as if the confrontation had reminded him why he'd fallen in love with performing in the first place. He sang That's Life, with particular intensity, the lyrics about getting knocked down but getting back up, seeming to carry extra weight. From the wings, Gotti watched with genuine appreciation. Whatever else Frank Sinatra was, he was a professional who respected his audience. In Gotti's world, that counted for something. After the final bow and thunderous standing ovation, the two men sat in Sinatra's private dressing room with glasses of aged bourbon. You know, Sinatra said, loosening his bow tie, I never said the Gambinos were finished. I said the old way of doing business was finished. There's a difference. Gotti sipped his bourbon thoughtfully. Maybe. But in my world, perception is reality. In my world too. That's why I'm careful about what I say, and who I say it to. They talked until 3 a.m. about everything except crime, about their childhoods in Italian neighborhoods, about the price of success, about what it meant to be respected versus what it meant to be feared. Can I tell you something, John? Sinatra said as dawn light crept through the windows. The guys who last in this town aren't the ones who rule by fear. They're the ones who figure out how to adapt. Gotti studied the entertainer's weathered face. You think I can't adapt? I think you're smarter than you let on. And I think you know the world's changing whether we like it or not. When Gotti finally left Caesar's palace that morning, he carried himself differently. Not defeated, but thoughtful. He'd come expecting to intimidate a celebrity, and instead found himself challenged by a peer. 3 weeks later, newspapers reported that John Gotti had quietly settled several ongoing disputes without violence, a rare occurrence that surprised law enforcement and rival families alike. Frank Sinatra never spoke publicly about their meeting, but those close to him noticed he stopped making casual comments about organized crime. When asked why, he would simply say, "A gentleman never discusses private conversations." Years later, after Gotti's conviction and Sinatra's death, FBI wiretaps would reveal that the Teflon Don had frequently quoted something Sinatra told him that night. "Power without respect is just noise. Respect without power is just wishful thinking. But respect earned through power used wisely. That's what legends are made of." The meeting between John Gotti and Frank Sinatra lasted 6 hours, but its effects rippled through Las Vegas for decades. It proved that even the most dangerous men could find common ground when they recognized each other as equals. In the end, two legends learned that sometimes the most dangerous confrontation is the one where nobody throws a punch, because that's when minds actually change. And in a city built on calculated risks, that might have been the biggest gamble of all.